Alright, if we don't get to play as these characters in the future, I'm gonna be so tilted. Yo, what's going on guys? My name is Moosewayne1, welcome back to another Kingdom Hearts video. So, with Kingdom Hearts 3 done and out of the way and a new game and phase upon us, the series has a lot of potential to develop characters throughout the rest of the series. We have the storylines following Lee, Isa, and Subject X that was teased in Birth by Sleep and explored again in Kingdom Hearts 3. We have the story arc of the Foretellers and Luxu that was explored again in the Kingdom Hearts 3 epilogue. And of course, we have the overarching story that is the Master of Masters as the main antagonistic force. And I say antagonistic force because at this point we don't really know if he's a true antagonist, but I'll explore that in a later video. But what excites me about Melody of Memory besides the actual game is what it could set up. And I talked about this in my video on why Melody of Memory could be one of the most important games in the franchise. I want to talk about the Kingdom Hearts 2020 trailer. In that trailer, it said, as you may know by now, that we were promised 6 new playable characters and 3 new stories, and Melody of Memory could be the game to set up all of that. And today I want to talk about the possibility of new characters, who they could be, and what that could mean to the story. And if you want to see more Kingdom Hearts speculation videos, make sure you subscribe to the channel, support your boy, and turn on that notification bell. Like we saw earlier in the Kingdom Hearts 2020 trailer, we will be getting 3 new stories and 6 playable characters. And I'm really interested to see who these playable characters could be, because it doesn't really specify what exactly that means. It could be 6 new characters that we've never played as before, and if that's the case, we can expect a lot here in the next couple of games to not only introduce 6 new characters, but also set them up as playable as well. And if that happens, Sora's gonna have an interesting time when he gets back.
Who are you people?
Honestly, it'd be really cool if that was the case, but realistically, I don't see it happening. Honestly, it's most likely that they mean characters that we know are going to become playable. And it's interesting because we don't know if they mean characters that we haven't played as in a long time, like Xion or Roxas. Well, more than that one fight, because of course Roxas was playable in Remind, or characters that haven't been playable ever, like Axel or Cyax. Honestly, I'd be fine with it because as far as all of the new characters go, being the Foretellers, Luxu, and the Master of Masters, it'd be pretty cool to play as the Foretellers at some point, because I don't think we'll ever get to play as Luxu or the Master of Masters. Speaking of which, I know there are theories going around that the Foretellers and the Master of Masters are different versions of characters we already know of, and I honestly hope that isn't the case, because that would kind of water down their characters. Like, Luxu being Xigbar was a cool reveal, but that effect loses steam the more you do it in my opinion, and I don't want to see it done again. But if the Master of Masters ends up being Demyx, I would laugh so freaking hard.
Demyx time!
This again? Recycled gags suck!
But with everyone back after the events of Kingdom Hearts 3, there are a couple of avenues that Kingdom Hearts could explore past Melody of Memory, since it was confirmed in a recent interview that there won't be a lot of story content in the game. But while we aren't expecting much in terms of quantity, it's the quality of the content and how it could set up the future that interests me. And there are a lot of characters that could use some development, and other characters who have been explored but could also use some secondary character arcs as well. And honestly, it'd be really cool to see Kingdom Hearts breathe new life into characters that just returned in the end of Kingdom Hearts 3. For example, it'd be really cool to play as Xion again and give her sort of her own character arc. It'd be interesting to see how her story will play out in the grand scheme of things. One thing I'd be interested to see is how she deals with being her own person now instead of being inside of someone's heart. I could kind of see her story being similar to MT from Infinity Train. Also, if you haven't seen Infinity Train, you should definitely watch it. It's amazing and on HBO Max, and you get a free 7-day trial. It's a short series, but it's fantastic and needs support for a 4th season, so go watch it, thanks. And what I mean by that is Xion's story could explore how she comes to terms with being her own person, and the struggle it takes to accept that as your identity. It'd be similar to Roxas' character arc in the prologue of Kingdom Hearts 2, but the key difference being between her and Roxas is that Roxas already had the experience of being his own person, then coming to know who he actually is in the Data Twilight Town world when Diz altered his mind. But in Days, Xion actually knew her role in regards to Kairi, so maybe she could have an interesting spin to put on that story. And now that she's her own person, it'd be interesting to see how she handles it and see her own progression as a character throughout the rest of the series. Maybe she could get her own version of her Keyblade and have it redesigned since her heart is now separate from Sora's and she's in her own body. Kind of like how Roxas once used the Kingdom Key at the beginning of Days, but now of course uses Oathkeeper and Oblivion. Since we haven't really seen much of her since Days, it'd be nice to see her revamped character have some development. Because even after he was gone in Kingdom Hearts 2, Roxas was still a key part to the story, and then he got Days after that to give us more context on his character. And while Xion doesn't need a lot of context, I feel like she's the least developed as far as her character goes compared to the rest of the Sea Salt trio. And it'd be nice to see her grow and have a spotlight even if it's not in a full-fledged game. Maybe she could be playable in a Birth by Sleep or Dream Drop Distance style with another character that we could possibly play as Axel. Honestly, this is probably my number one character to play as because you can't deny that playing as Axel would just be so cool. Like, we've seen some of his fighting style during the Sykes fight in the Keyblade Graveyard and the Guardians fight during Remind, and the way he sort of switches back and forth between his chakrams and his Keyblade was just one of the coolest things in my opinion. And this one is more likely because of the Subject X storyline that was fleshed out in Kingdom Hearts 3. Before the Keyblade Graveyard segment, Sykes reminds Axel of how they joined the organization to save a girl that was trapped in the castle in Radiant Garden back in the days of Birth by Sleep. Then they became nobodies to continue the search for her and find clues after she had disappeared. But then Axel went out and made new friends in Roxas and Shion and of course formed the Sea Salt Trio. But then Sykes revealed that he was jealous that Axel essentially left him and the girl behind in one of the most emotional cutscenes in Kingdom Hearts 3. And now we know of course that he's back, toting a new outfit, eating ice cream with the Twilight Town crew. Honestly, the fact that Sykes and Axel both have new outfits makes me think they'll be playable at some point if we're being entirely honest. And with him going down the same path as Axel, going from the side of darkness to the side of light, I could see him ending up with a Keyblade at some point as well. Since it looks like nobody sort of keep their fighting style like Axel with his fire attacks, it'd be cool to play as Sykes with his Keyblade transforming into his Claymore. Maybe we could have a combo with his Keyblade but go into a ground pound combo finisher as his Claymore or something like that. Or maybe we could possibly play as Berserker mode Sykes at some point. That would be so cool. But honestly, no matter which one of them becomes playable, we could see this series focus on their friendship more and their journey to find Sora, but also look for Subject X as well. I'd like to see how they sort of regroup as friends fighting on the same side, and how Sykes could interact with Roxas and Shion as well. And it'd also be cool just to see Axel and Sykes fighting together, because I know Axel had some really funny one-liners during the Guardians fight in Remind, and it'd be funny to hear some of those as he's fighting along Sykes as well. Also, and this isn't in the realm of playable characters, but I low-key want to see Shion give Sykes the business for all that crap he was talking in Days.
That's for yesterday, SquarePants!
Honestly, one character I think we're definitely going to see playable at some point is Yozora. Like, this has to be the most obvious one, because Nomura is setting it up so hard with the Sora being Sky and Zora being Night Sky comparison in their names. Like, we know he's going to be important at some point, but we don't know how. All we know is he has something to do with Sora since he summoned his Station of Awakening in the secret episode. And also the fact that he has the ability to steal your Koopa coin during his fight kind of feels like some hint that Nomura threw at us but tried to hide in disguise of, oh, this just happens in the boss fight, don't worry about it too much. Honestly, depending on what happens in Melody of Memory, we could see him playable as early as the game directly after. And it'd be cool to have a Verum Rex game to introduce his story and see what led to him being a part of the Kingdom Hearts universe as like a prequel game or something like that. What'd be really cool is that at the end of this sort of prequel game, we end up fighting Sora and Shibuya as the end of the Verum Rex game, and we can finally get both sides of the story leading up to that fight. And then that could explain why Azora can use Koopa coins as well, since he is a playable character. Also, since we have a lot of unanswered questions about who he is, why the Nameless Star in the Final World seems to know him, and how he ended up in Shibuya, there's a lot of story there that could be covered in a standalone game. Maybe we could see how he comes in contact with the Master of Masters, since he seemed to be in Shibuya at the same time Sora and Riku ended up there as well. There's so much mystery surrounding Azora that it wouldn't surprise me if one of the 3 new games and 6 playable character slots are dedicated to him and his story going forward in the Kingdom Hearts universe. The last group I want to talk about who could probably be playable is the Wayfinder trio. With Aqua, Terra, and Ventus back after Kingdom Hearts 3, it'd be cool to see those conversations and how they deal with the pain Master Xehanort caused them. Because we know that Aqua has some form of PTSD from being in the realm of darkness for so long, and now that they're heading back, it could be some sort of weird Birth by Sleep 0.2 mashup game. And I frankly just want to see those deep conversations about all the stuff that happened all those years ago in Birth by Sleep. Now that everyone's back, I want to see the interaction of the characters as who they are post-Xehanort. And also with the recent update in Union Cross, and I won't spoil it for you if you haven't seen it yet, but we know Ventus is going to learn about what he did at some point. I'd like to see how Aqua and Terra find out to reacting that Ven is actually from the age of fairy tales and that he's actually older than both of them. It'd low-key actually be really funny to see Ven treating them like kids after he finds out that he's the oldest.
Well, well, well. How the turntables...
And I also want to see just how he gets his memory back as well. Because honestly, we have yet to see how he ends up meeting Xehanort, though part of me thinks we'll see that in a Union Cross update instead of a mainline Kingdom Hearts game, but still. Even so, I'm excited to see what happens with Ventus and how the Wayfinder trio will be going forward, as they're the lives that Xehanort had the most impact on as well. It'd be cool to see them have their own game and go through their stories as well. Also, I just want to play in the Keyblade armor and Unreal Engine because they just looked so saucy. But enough about me, I want to hear from you guys. Who do you think is going to be playable next? What do you think the next Kingdom Hearts game is going to look like? Let me know down below in the comments, and as always, make sure you like the video, share the video with a friend, and subscribe to the channel to support your boy. My name is Moosewayne1, and I will see y'all next time.